For nearly a century, humanity has operated under a single comforting illusion. We believed that we could simply outclean our enemies. But the walls of our sterile fortresses are leaking. We are not just failing to kill the microscopic world. Instead, we are actively training it to become indestructible. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are crossing into the terrifying reality of human health. We built magnificent cathedrals of sterility, our modern intensive care units, and armed ourselves with a chemical arsenal designed to nuke the microscopic world into absolute submission. But why are these undisputed hospital cleaners suddenly failing? How can a microscopic bug survive a chemical explicitly designed to melt its membrane? And what happens when our obsession with total cleanliness accidentally wipes out all the good bacteria, leaving a vacuum for apex predators? We are witnessing a terrifying biological event known as the Sterile Paradox. The very chemicals we use to keep our hospital surfaces safe are inadvertently training the next generation of untreatable lethal pathogens. This isn't just a story of dirty hands. This is the invisible siege. To understand how we lost control, we are looking at groundbreaking unclassified research from the McCormick School of Engineering at Northwestern University. They have uncovered a deeply disturbing link between the most common hospital antiseptics and the explosive rise of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Today, we go inside the cell. If you have had a surgery in the last 20 years or even visited an ICU, you have been coated in a chemical called chlorhexidine. Why is this undisputed gold standard of clinical hygiene suddenly betraying us? Chlorhexidine is the undisputed captain of the antiseptic team. It is in the heavy-duty soap surgeons use to scrub their hands. It is the active ingredient in the wipes used to decontaminate your skin before a scalpel makes an incision. It is even in the specialized mouthwashes given to coma patients to prevent ventilator-associated pneumonia. But we need to understand exactly what chlorhexidine is. It is a biocide. To understand the difference, we must use the analogy of warfare. A standard antibiotic is like a highly trained sniper. It targets one specific microscopic protein or biological process inside the bacteria. But because it is so specific, if the bacteria mutates and the target moves even a millimeter, the sniper misses. The antibiotic becomes useless. An antiseptic biocide like chlorhexidine is entirely different. It is a sledgehammer hitting a glass window. It does not target a specific protein. It violently attacks the outer bacterial cell membrane, ripping holes in the wall and causing the internal guts of the cell to literally leak out. Because this chemical is so devastating, so fundamentally destructive, medical science assumed bacteria could never learn to survive it. After all, no matter how much glass window evolves, a sledgehammer will always shatter it, right? Wrong. Evolution is more creative and far more brutal than we ever gave it credit for. The bacteria haven't learned to make their glass stronger to resist the blow. They have learned to catch the sledgehammer in midair and throw it right back at us. So, the ultimate question remains: how exactly does a single-celled organism survive a chemical bath that is physically dissolving its outer membrane? The answer lies in a microscopic piece of machinery called an efflux pump. Let's translate this into a scenario we can understand. Imagine you are trapped in a wooden boat in the middle of the ocean, and the hull springs massively. You cannot stop the wood from rotting, and you cannot plug the hole. The water is rushing in. So, what do? You install a high-powered, industrial-strength water pump. The deadly water still leaks into the boat, but your machine pumps it back out into the ocean faster than it can fill the hull. As long as the pump has power, the boat stays afloat. Lethal bacteria like Acinetobacter baumannii and Klebsiella pneumoniae have done exactly this. They have evolved highly specialized protein channels embedded directly in their outer membranes. When a deadly molecule of chlorhexidine breaches the cell, these pumps recognize its chemical signature. They physically grab the poison and violently shove it back outside before it can damage their internal DNA. The bacteria is essentially vomiting out the poison faster than we can drown it. But here's the technical reality that terrifies researchers. This is the absolute kick in the teeth. These pumps are often multi-drug resistant or MDR. They are not just tuned to recognize hospital floor cleaners. Once a bacterium builds this heavy-duty machinery to pump out our antiseptics, it accidentally discovers that the exact same pump can eject our most critical life-saving antibiotics. Medicines like colistin or daptomycin, the absolute last lines of defense we have, are sucked up and spit out by the same machine. But aggressively deploying cleaning chemicals to keep our hospitals safe, we are inadvertently training the bacteria to become completely immune to our internal medicines. But if the chlorhexidine is so deadly, how do the bacteria survive long enough to build these pumps in the first place? Why is this catastrophic adaptation happening right now in our cleanest environments? It comes down to a law of physics and biology called selection pressure. When a hospital staff member wipes down a bed rail or an IV stand with chlorhexidine, the chemical is at its maximum strength. It acts as a sledgehammer, instantly killing 99.9% of the bacteria. But it is physically impossible to kill 100%. As the antiseptic dries under the hospital lights, its chemical concentration drops. It evaporates. What is left behind on the surface is known as a trace residue, a lingering, heavily diluted, weak presence of the chemical. Think of it exactly like going to the gym. If you want to build muscle, you do not walk in and try to lift a 1,000-pound weight. It would crush you instantly. Instead, you lift a weight that is just heavy enough to stress the muscle fibers without killing you. These trace residues are the weights for the bacteria. The diluted chemical left on the hospital floor is no longer strong enough to melt the cell, but it is just strong enough to signal to the bacterium's DNA that it is under attack, forcing it to bulk up its defenses. It forces the surviving bugs to build more efflux pumps. We have unknowingly transformed our hospital surfaces into a giant, high-speed evolutionary gym, and the only daily workout on the schedule is survival against humans. If evolution relies on parents slowly passing down traits to their offsprings over thousands of years, how are these superbugs spreading this immunity so impossibly fast across entire hospitals? If evolution were just a slow game of survival of the fittest, we might have a chance to win. But bacteria have a biological cheat code. It is called horizontal gene transfer. Unlike humans who have to wait for an entirely new generation to be born to inherit a genetic trait, bacteria can share their genetic secrets in real time. Bacteria carry small, circular rings of bonus DNA called plasmids. You can think of a plasmid as a microscopic USB flash drive filled entirely with survival software. If one single bacterium sitting on an ICU floor survives the trace residue and develops the genetic code for a high-powered efflux pump. It does not keep that secret to itself. It physically swims over to a neighboring bacterium. It extends a biological tube called a pili, connects to the neighbor, and literally uploads the immunity software. This process is called conjugation. And the scariest part is that it can happen between entirely different species. A completely harmless, everyday bacterium can invent the pump, walk over to a deadly pathogen like MRSA, plug in and hand over the blueprints for super resistance. Every time we spray a surface and leave a trace residue, we force the bacteria to code new survival software. They then act as a massive, high-speed biological server, sharing that invincible code with every other deadly bug in the building. So, if leaving a trace residue trains the superbugs, what happens when we use enough chemicals to actually wipe a surface entirely clean? Do we finally win? No, because when we wipe a surface completely clean, we create an ecological vacuum. In a healthy, normal environment and even a dirty one, there is fierce competition. Billions of harmless, good bacteria occupy the physical space. They eat the nutrients. They make it incredibly difficult for a deadly pathogen to find room to multiply. But when we use broad-spectrum antiseptics to constantly nuke every surface in an ICU, we burn down the entire forest. We kill the good guys. If a single pump-equipped superbug survives that wipe down, it now has the entire hospital bed to itself. There is no competition for food. There are no harmless bacteria left to hold the line. It multiplies exponentially into an unstoppable colony. So, what is the solution? Research advocates for a radical shift in hospital philosophy called antimicrobial stewardship. We must stop using the sledgehammer to kill a fly. For non-critical surfaces like hallway floors and waiting room walls, simple soap and water are often vastly superior. Soap does not leave a chemical trace residue to train the bacteria. It simply traps the bugs in microscopic bubbles, lifts them off the surface, and flushes them down the drain. We spent decades trying to reach zero bacteria, not realizing that absolute zero is the perfect, undisputed playground for an apex predator. We must save the heavy chemicals for the surgical scalpels and stop providing the gym equipment the bacteria used to train. The invisible siege is a brutal reminder that we cannot defeat biology with sheer chemical force. The harder we try to nuke our environment into absolute sterility, the more we actively select for the most resilient, most dangerous organisms on the planet. The breakthrough research at Northwestern University is a warning shot across the bow of modern medicine. We are standing at a precipice in medical history. If we do not fundamentally change how we clean our clinical environments, we will rapidly find ourselves in a post-antibiotic era, a reality where a simple scratch from a rose bush or a routine appendix surgery becomes a guaranteed death sentence. Not because we lack the medicine to fight the infection, but because we personally trained the enemy to ignore it. The fortress of cleanliness is failing. It is time to start thinking like the enemy. We will meet in our next video. Until then, stay analytical and stay curious.